Sean Myers now joined by the new head coach of the Hempfield area Spartans boys basketball team, Greater Latrobe legend Austin Butler. First off, Austin, congrats. I'm sure it's a very exciting time for you. You jump right in, coaching at the highest level of high school basketball in the WPIAL with a 6A school. So first off, what was your reaction like when you found out that you were going to be the next man guiding the Spartans?
For sure. Yeah, obviously, thanks for having me on. The biggest reaction, right, just when I first made that decision, I wanted to get into coaching, right? I'm from Latrobe, obviously, not too far from Hempfield. I saw that the job was open, and I knew that I was interested in getting into coaching after my playing career. So the biggest thing was just to go through the interview process with an open mind, right? Use it for experience. Obviously knew a lot of candidates were applying for it, but was very confident in my playing career background that, I was in a position that I thought I could get it. Obviously, went through that process. One interview turned to two, two turned to three. Doing well in the process. So then, kind of went for that third one with in mind. I got a good shot at getting this, and they saw something in me that they were looking for, and was thankful enough for an opportunity to, like you said, have this be my first, kind of intro into coaching. So for me, I'm super excited. Obviously, like you said, I'm young, energetic. Obviously still got a lot of the basketball stuff in me, right? But now I can transfer that into being a coach. So for them to take that chance with me and give me the opportunity to start fresh and lead with a group of guys who it's going to be a new situation for everybody. I'm super excited for the opportunity.
I'm willing to bet that there was applicants who had a lot of coaching experience, much more than you. What do you think about you stood out to the people who made the decision?
For sure. Yeah, I think just my confidence, right? Going through this process, obviously you're going up against other, people going through the process who, like you mentioned, right, have a lot of the coaching experience, have experience necessarily in the high school coaching, atmosphere. So for me, it was just more so being confident in myself, trusting the people I've been around, who I look up to, right? Growing up in a basketball household with coaches, playing for a great coach at Latrobe, Coach Wetzel. My playing career, I was always surrounded by very good coaches. Um, you know, Coach Coach Carmody, Holy Cross. Then it was Coach Nelson, Coach Sanchez, all very brilliant basketball minds. And then obviously playing 2 years overseas, you're around national team coaches, guys who know, a lot about the game. So for me, I was very confident in obviously not having that exact coaching experience, but being able to be around those coaches who have coached me and made me learn a lot, and then using my playing career and my skill set there. I didn't see it as a negative at all with no experience, right? You got to start somewhere for everybody. And I think this was a perfect opportunity being from the area, using my playing experience. And just, I think that, like I said, right, they saw my confidence, they saw my plan. Super energetic. I want to coach the way I play, right? Very upbeat, very fun. Work our butts off. And for me, right, I think that was relayed very clearly in the interview process. And that was something that they were looking for. Obviously, it was a new start. And, whether it was someone younger or not, or someone with experience or not, it worked out that, they saw whatever they were looking for in me. And, I'm very thankful and lucky that they did. Obviously, like I said, going through the process, as you get down to that final interview, you want to be the guy that they go with. So that says a lot, right? When I'm, very young, obviously with no experience, like you mentioned. But I don't see that as a negative, like I mentioned, right? I almost see it as a positive. From day one, it's going to be a fresh start for everybody. We're going to be in it together. Obviously, there'll be some times where, right, there's some learning experiences that go along with this for both the players and myself and staff. But I think it's great, right? Being young, being energetic, I'm going to be able to be on the floor with the guys, moving up and down with them, being very hands-on and involved with this whole thing. I'm just super excited. So I think just, the youth in me is all, some people see it as an inexperience. Well, I kind of use that as my advantage with, my playing career and stuff like that. So I'm super excited, right? I don't have any doubts about how this thing will go. Just ready to get going here and the opportunity and to prove everybody that, hiring an inexperienced 26-year-old is, the right move. So.
I would imagine you have some memories going against the Spartans. I know different classifications now, but I believe Wildcats and Spartans went at it during your time a little bit. Did you initially think like it's going to be weird coaching at Hempfield? And what about the Spartans and about that district stood out and made that an attractive choice for you?
For sure. Yeah, like you mentioned, right back when we were, I was a freshman to a senior, right? You're Hempfield's your rival. I mean, that's team A, team B going at it head to head for section titles, and you're playing 2 times a year in the heat of the section play. So for 4 years, right, I think people my age really understood and appreciated that rivalry, right? It was something that fans wanted to see. It was always competitive, right? When you have a game that, you're going through the school day knowing that, hey, man, like, this is an in-town rival, like this is going to be fun, it's going to be competitive, it's awesome. So obviously it was, when the idea first came up of applying for it, right? It's a bit weird just because it's different, right? You've always been in Latrobe, you've always known, being in Latrobe and that district, and then going back, and all my brothers played for Latrobe, and obviously my dad and Coach Wetzel have coached there for 20 plus years. So it's kind of all we've known, right? And then now that I think it's a little different now, right? You're not in the same classification. They're not section opponents. So maybe if that was still a thing, it'd be a little more. I don't know, whatever word you want to use, right? A little weird or uncomfortable or whatever that may be, but with them not being in the same section and not being section opponents and kind of being in 2 classifications, and it being 8 years now since the heat of those rivalries, I think that's not really a big factor anymore, right? Whether I went to Latrobe or where I went to high school. Obviously, like I said, I'm still in the area. Um, Obviously, a school like Hempfield, right? The facilities are great. Like you mentioned, they're in one of the toughest sections in 6A. So just the competitor in me as a player, right? You want to compete, you want to get better, you want to play against the best, around. You want to go out there every night, and whether it's practice, a game, you want to get better, and you just want the chance to compete, like I said. So for me, right, being not only young but have this be my first go at it, I'm super excited that they're in 6A and they're in a tough section, right? It'd be, some people like to start off and maybe get a lower classification job and ease their way into it, maybe with a little easier competition. But I love this challenge ahead of us. Being, like I said, in the top of the classification in one of the toughest sections in the WPIAL. I mean, it's super excited for me just because I'm super competitive, right? To have that wear off on my coaching style and get these kids pumped to just go out and compete. So, like I said, right, I wouldn't want it any other way, right? Kind of being thrown into the fire, first year, in a great section, and just be able to kind of go out there and show what we're going to be able to do this season. Obviously, get around the guys and have a good summer and stuff like that. But as far as Hempfield, right, I mean, it's a school that for your first job, right, I mean, you can't get much better than a school like Hempfield, like I said, right, with the facilities, um, the historic stuff that they've had as a program, as a school, and just having those facilities at my disposal for these kids to get better, come in, right, skill development, get the youth involved with the facilities, and then not only have that, but just have that carry over into the season. And for me, like I said, just being a competitor, knowing that we're stepping into, a very tough classification, tough section, I'm super excited about that opportunity to go in there and compete and show what we can do at that level. So
You had three younger brothers who also played at a high level, all 1,000-point scorers at Greater Latrobe. They've all since finished up their basketball career with the Wildcats. Your dad has been a longtime assistant coach under Brad Wetzel. So, with no more sons to coach at Greater Latrobe, do you think maybe you can convince him to join you at Hempfield area?
yeah, that seems to be the question on everyone's tongue these days. Obviously, with my dad being around for, coaching high school basketball with Brad over there at Latrobe for, I think this might be 20, 23, 24 years. But, obviously I wanted to make sure that the interview process and getting the job and all that was official. So obviously since last night's official, right, those conversations might be had, right. But for me too, I got to understand that, he started this thing at Latrobe with Brad. He's been there since the start with Coach Wetzel. So that's completely going to be his decision, right? I mean, either way, obviously, right, I'm his son. Growing up, around coaches, right, I'm going to have his support and help, no matter what, whether it's I'm coming home and picking his brain or whether, it works out and that could be an option. So for me, it was more so waiting until this thing became official. And then, those will be conversations that will be had. And not only just with him, but with the whole staff as a whole, right? These next couple of days, leading up into, when we start the summer stuff. So like I said, I'd be super lucky to have someone like my dad on staff who has that experience, but regardless, whether it's him or someone else, I'm still going to have his support and his, whether I need a helping hand or not when I come home. Maybe I got a question with this, or like I said, it's going to be a learning experience. So either way, whether he's on staff or not, it's going to be a situation where he's going to be around and able to help me if needed. So like I said, right, over the next couple of days into weeks, right, we'll kind of know what the staff looks like. Obviously, have a very good idea what it will look like, but now that it's official, we can put that staff together the best that I think will be what makes the best sense for these kids and moving forward for the success of the program.
So you've been out of high school for a little while now. You had a lot of success at the college ranks, played professionally, both in Europe 5-on-5 and then 3-on-3 basketball. But if you think back to your time at Greater Latrobe, the high school level where you're going to be coaching now going forward, what memories come to mind? What did you like most about your time that you can think back and reflect on?
Yeah, I think just the experience, right? You go through 4 years in high school, and now looking back on it, right, it goes so fast, right? Everyone always says how fast it goes. I said the other day, right, the ball stops bouncing for everybody at some point, whether that's a choice you make or just physically, right? Going back to Latrobe, I had 4 great years there, right? I was bouncing around sport to sport, playing for a great coach and Coach Wetzel, having won 3 section titles. But then everyone's goal right at that level is you want to go on to the next level, right? Play Division 1, play Division 2, just, get a scholarship to play basketball. I was lucky enough to, get a full ride to go play at the next level. And then, once you get to the next level, you kind of have those dreams and hopes to, be a pro. So I think since I was little, right, it was always a goal of mine to play professionally, right? I wanted to play at the top level and play, with the best of the best. And, through the hard work and through the guidance over the years, right, I was able to go have 5 very successful, years at the Division 1 level, playing for great coaches, great teammates. Was I think something that's going to help my coaching career as well, right? I've played for teams who weren't necessarily as good, and I've played for great teams who were really good and had chances to win championships. So I think with that experience as a player, right, you really see both sides of it, right? When it's going great, it's very easy to stay on that high road. And then when it's not going great, right, it kind of tests your character a little bit and how you handle things and how you respond. And so just going through that college experience, a little bit of ups and downs, how did coaching change? Obviously COVID, transferred schools because of that COVID year. So just a lot of experience at a lot of different places with a lot of different coaches. And like I said, was fortunate to have a successful enough college career where I was, thankful and lucky enough to get the opportunity to go test that out, over the waters in Europe. Had 2 great years, overseas, one in Finland, playing for a great coach. And like I said, right, did really well over there. Gave it another opportunity in Belgium, playing against a lot of really good competition, right? A lot of those Americans are G League guys, ex-NBA guys, just the best of the best from, America going over there to play with the local Belgium talent, but also the imports as well. So just through that experience, right? And then you tie in the 3x3 stuff. I'm playing with USA staff, right? These guys who know a lot about, the game and your development. And I'm playing with, top of the G League guys, right? These G League guys are coming in after their G League seasons and you're just getting better. You're competing, right? It was really good for my growth. Did that for 3 or 4 years. So I think that experience, right, just looking back on it, right, each different, whether it's high school, college, professionally, it all happened and kind of makes you who you are today. And that's, I think, why I'm in this situation right now, right? I had those successful, playing career days where I learned a lot, and it's obviously, been a love of mine in my whole life since I was, able to walk, right? Basketball's been everything to me. So just being able to be in a position to help these kids, obviously I've trained some kids and I love working with the kids and, helping out in that aspect. So the whole coaching thing was a no-brainer for me. So just having the success as a player, I think that just really solidified, the love for the game and how I wanted to kind of give back. And I feel like my way to give back is using my experience and my success, to show these high school kids that I'm coaching that, no matter who you are, where you're at, what sport you want to play, like it's possible to make it out no matter where you're at, right? Whether it's, like I said, I went to Latrobe, whether it's these Hempfield kids, like if you have dreams and aspirations to play in college, play professionally, and you work your butt off towards those goals, right? It's 100% achievable. And I just want to put myself in a position where I can help, spread that, coach these kids to get better, not only on the court, but off the court. So just, touch on that question, right? I think just every year of my career, no matter where I've been, has kind of led me to this position today. So, obviously you enjoy the journey while you're on it, and, it shapes you to be in this position where I'm at right now. So.
Well, that position's a very exciting one. Congrats once again on becoming the head coach of the Hempfield Area Spartans boys basketball team. We're looking forward to seeing you this season and beyond.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm looking forward to it as well. So.